travelers. My name is Nick Murphy.
And my name is Satchell Drakes.
And welcome back to Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast. We're going to take you on an interstellar adventure through the darkest corners of your mind to unlock your hidden passion for cinema.
That feels so weird to hear.
I know.
I haven't heard it in the longest, literally since the last time we recorded.
I know.
I don't even know what that was.
It's been a while. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
It's holiday time. The new year is upon us. It's been a lot of self-reflection, a lot of just thinking about all the good stuff and like all the lessons that sort of learned in the past year.
Yeah,
how about
totally.
yourself?
Likewise, man. You get to the end of the year and you start taking it into account, like what you've done and what you've accomplished and what things need to be reworked and stuff. It's interesting. I always love this time of year.
Me too. Actually, what's sort of related to the Star Wars thing a little bit. I was you're gonna find this on you're gonna find this on the social media because I had a little moment where I found this sort of internet generated image of Mark Hamill, sort of publicly explaining that even though he kind of had differences with the director of the last Jedi, he realized that after seeing the film, there were things that he was holding on to that he was precious about that he really just needed to wait and kind of see what the fully realized version of this film would be.
Yeah, man.
And he admitted that he was wrong ultimately, and that he really did respect what Rian did. And I don't know, there was something about that moment, him saying that was it hit really close to home. Because I guess I just like the idea of being virtually the last word on who a character is, and being somebody who's in the later half of their life, and still being able to learn lessons, still being able to say that you're wrong. And I guess the whole concept of never being done, or at least having the will to run the race as long as you can. Yeah. I don't know. There was something really cool about that I was I want to be able, when I'm Mark Hamill's age,
yeah.
I think I want to be able to continue to admit that I'm wrong and continue to readjust my character and try to be better.
Yeah, totally, man. I think everybody can do that. I don't think you need to be an old man to do it. I think you can do that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to admit that you're wrong about anything. I just saw this thing with Jenna Fisher. She tweeted something about this political thing, and then a day later, she was like, "Hey, I tweeted this thing, and I didn't have all the facts, and I'm sorry for tweeting that out because I was incorrect, and I was going to leave it up, but I decided to delete it because I didn't want further misinformation getting out there. So here's me clarifying. I'm sorry for spreading misinformation, and let's move on." And there's something nice, especially in this day and age, to be yep, I thought one way, and due to new information, I feel a different way. And I think that's 100%. Exactly what Mark Hamill's doing. It's cool.
It is really cool.
I think it's a good precursor to everything about The Last Jedi, where everyone has their preconceptions as to what the movie should be and what the movie is and was, and then they see it, and I think it's not anything. It's not anything anyone ever thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. There was a lot of it's crazy. And just to clarify, I think I mean I don't ever want experience or seasonedness to get in the way of being able to constantly be humbled by life in a kind of way.
Gotcha.
But yeah, yes. Hopefully I don't think I know everything right now.
Oh, you know everything.
But no, I'm totally with you. That's why I almost feel right away, I just what was really great about when this film came out was, so I saw it opening day. You saw it before opening day.
I did. I got into a press screening of it, and it was harder than any of the other ones that I had seen early, because this one immediately I was like, I gotta talk to somebody about this. I went with my brother, and he came out, and he's like, "What'd you think?" I was like, "I got a lot of thoughts on this. I want to talk to you about this, but I gotta process this. So yeah, I'll just call you later."
No, I'm totally with you. There's I don't know. There is so much to unpack, and even now I feel just us talking about this, we're going to learn things that we hadn't really considered before.
Yeah, there's a lot in this movie. It's definitely not just a blockbuster, and it's not even just a Star Wars movie. There's so much kind of going on with it.
And I think that's what makes it really easy to appreciate about it, because somehow this film was supposed to be something that everybody can understand because it's an American classic. It's American culture, period, right?
Right.
And kids have to be inspired by it as well, and they have to be able to latch on to what's going on. But old heads have to also be able to latch on to some semblance of intricacy and maturity to characters and to worldviews and to everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's always amazing when people can come together and put together something that means a lot to somebody at a high level and means a lot to somebody at like a low level. Not that kids are low, but you know what I mean.
No, like, to be successful in both of those categories is really interesting. I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of like new subcategories of movies kind of come out. Superheroes being one of them, and then we see some like real outliers in like the superhero genre that kind of like redefine what it means. Like a film like Unbreakable, or recently Logan, where it's like, oh, this is like an indie movie with a guy with claws. You know what I mean? Like there's you could appreciate it for
that's
just
a
like,
good way to put it.
X-Men. Oh, X-Men guys. Cool. I see that. But then underneath kind of like that like super fine polish of a superhero movie, you're like, ooh, this is like dark and gritty, and there's a lot of like really dark, deep stuff happening here that is really like spurring my mind. And I feel like this movie is very, Last Jedi is very much like that too, where it's like, okay, cool, yeah, X-Wings and BB-8's there, and we got Porgs, and they're like adorable. We're having a lot of fun. This movie's very funny. And then like underneath that, you're like, oh, there's some dark shit happening here. Holy shit.
It's real.
Yeah.
Side note, I mean, with Disney there's mixed feelings about this, obviously, but with Disney recently acquiring some of the new properties they have, they came forward and said that it will allow them to sort of create more serious, more dark, more uniquely voiced kind of versions of films that we would get that are like rated G or like PG-13. So.
Yeah, totally. And like people just like assume that Disney means like the mouse and wholesome, you know what I mean? But they have a lot of subsidiaries that and like other kind of like sub-production company, and other properties that do a lot of like really groundbreaking stuff. Like they do, it's not all clean and wholesome all the time. There's a lot going on to it. Yeah,
I'm totally a Disney stan, so like I'm completely unaffected by.
Yeah,
which
totally.
sounds terrible. Like people are like the conglomerates, man, and I'm like, no, I'm with you. Yes, I'm with the resistance. However, Disney though.
Yeah, dude, when you're doing it right, okay. You can get a pass, like
yeah.
If you're Disney, Pixar, you're doing something right. You guys are great storytellers, and keep doing your thing. There's a reason you rose to the top, because you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. So I went and I saw this film, and I started getting texts from friends like,
yeah. Oh, and P.S. I'm glad that you reached out, because I was like, oh man, I want to talk to Satchel about this, and it'll be a cool conversation we have,
dude,
at some point. And
of course.
Well, no, and you were like, yo, we gonna record? I was like, oh, we're bringing it back.
We're dusting off the old microphones, kid.
Yeah, exactly. We were floating in space and we bumped into each other again.
Also, I feel like I should say, and I really mean it, like it comes to mind all the time, like I am, just to break the fourth wall for a split second. I just kept remembering like all the like Nick, probably every convention we went to in the past 2 years, at least one person like showed up in line, whether it was for merch or whatever. And they were like, oh man, like really hope you guys bring back Cinephilia Anonymous podcast.
Yeah,
like I listen to it.
Yeah.
I love films. And like, I wanted to cry every time.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it was really nice. This show's been one of those things where, Paul and I talk about this all the time. We just get spread too thin. We have too many things that we want to do, and there's just a finite amount of resources. But, maybe we can pick this up, maybe not on the regular, but when we can, and squeeze in. You're the same way I am, man. You got a lot of plates spinning.
I'm in, dude. About it.
Cool. So what were your kind of like initial thoughts kind of coming out of the movie?
Mine were so before I dive in, I just want to say only a lot of people when they finally went to see Star Wars, they were like, thank goodness I was able to avoid all the spoilers. I didn't set up any kind of filters or like mute buttons or anything for Star Wars. People in general seem to be really good about not spoiling anything. So far, that was my experience. I don't know if that was yours. And then also like when it finally did come out, I was seeing a lot of think pieces and thoughts and stuff, but it wasn't really about Star Wars as much as it was about people who weren't happy with Star Wars.
Right.
And I didn't let any of that into my world. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe Nick, you have something to say. For me, anytime somebody came at me with some negativity, I was like, can't relate, girl. Bye. I just like, it's just a thing. It's like, I can't relate. We're seeing the same thing on the screen. I don't know.
Yeah, dude.
I can't explain it to you.
People came to me with some like negative. It was never like, I don't think I've met anyone who was just like, I hated it. You know, I mean, I see that reaction on the internet. But no one like that I've talked to who like knows Star Wars, is like into Star Wars. Like nobody has been, I hate it. People who are like super Star Wars fans, for the most part, from what I hear, are like, yo, I love this. And then people who are kind of just like, yeah, I like a Star Wars every once in a while. They were kind of like, yeah, it was cool, I guess. But there was some stuff. I mean, there are like minor gripes that I've heard, but like any of those like minor things, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, man. That didn't bother me. that didn't bother me at all.
You said it in the best way. Yes.
Like, okay, so Dude. Heads up to listeners, we're going to be talking about the movie in depth, and we're going to spoil a lot of things. So if you've not seen the movie, here's your fair warning to stop.
There's no way to, like, I remember I saw just like a headline for a review that was like, Star Wars The Last Jedi review, no spoilers. And I was like,
I don't know how you can do that. How? Yeah.
What are you going to talk about? Nothing.
We talked about it. We had Luke stop by.
Blow that article out of the sky.
Like Luke came over. We were recording a Cast podcast, and Josh and I had just seen it, and Luke had just seen it, and Paul hadn't seen it yet. So he was like asking us questions about it. I'm like, dude, I can't. I've seen it like for a week at this point, like twice already, and I'm trying to like gauge my responses to you and try to like be like, try to not hype it up and trying to not like squash it or anything for you.
I have the Headspace app. I'm trying to meditate. I'm just like anything.
Thinking about it. But like, yeah, man, you can't. I couldn't explain it to him in non-sport. Like, we talked about it a lot, and I was just like, yeah, the one part was great, but like, I don't know what they're doing with this other part. And like, Luke and Josh knew what I was talking about, but like, you can't really, I don't know. I tried to really meter my response when people would ask me. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I enjoyed it very much. I think you should see it and form your opinion about it. Rather than
that's a good word, meter.
Yeah.
I think I try that too. Yeah. I try to tone police myself.
Well, dude, totally, man. Because like I enjoy many things. Almost
right.
Some would say too many things that I enjoy, and I feel like there are times when I'm very positive about things. Like my mom is like the worst. She's like, what should we see? I'm like, oh, this movie's great. And she's like, yeah, but you like really weird movies, and you like a lot of movies, and so I try to not immediately
that's real.
Like, it's my fucking favorite movie right now.
Right.
But that's something I've added to my thing. It's like, yo, this is my favorite movie right now. You know, like that's going to change on a consistent basis. And it was hard when people, because I don't know why other fandom things don't have this kind of built in, but Star Wars just does, where like someone's like, oh, you liked Force Awakens? What's the ranking? You know?
Top my God! When people came forward,
give me your
with
list,
that
man.
stuff,
Give me your list.
like,
You know, and I'm like,
people do that with every Zelda too. It's like, oh my, like, just get out of my timeline.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Like, dude, I don't need to like, I don't need to like rank them. Like, what are we talking? Like, the one that was most formative to me, or the one that I will watch repeatedly more than the other? Like, I don't. Which one is the funniest?
It's your
which one
favorite
is
because of reasons that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah, and like they're all.
You're
like,
not movie phone. We're not movie. Like we're not.
Yeah, we're not fucking
droids.
Metacritic right now.
Like
yeah. Yeah, so I tried to like, and so for me, to play against that whole thing right there, this was probably like top 3 for me, like of my favorite Star Wars movies. And it's hard to say that and not just immediately come off as a fanboy, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm with you.
Well, you just saw it. Well, you know, obviously you're going to think it's the best. It's like, no, I think it's the best because of X, Y, and Z, which I'm sure we'll talk about in this whole thing.
Oh, we will. Like, you said that, and like X, Y, and Z got filled in right away for me.
Dude, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the top things that floated to the top for me, and then you could go yours, and then we'll figure out how we want to come in and conquer this thing.
Yeah.
Guys, we're literally just going ham right now because we've been so excited. For the people in podcast land, you need to understand.
Yeah.
The things that floated top for me that I loved, Jedi theology.
Yeah.
It being specific and upfront and beautiful, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I love that idea that it's like we've been told for 40 years now that it's good and bad, light and dark, and that's what it all exists. And like this movie in 3 sentences, you know, blew up that whole ideology and was like, no.
Oh,
that's so vain for us to think that it's just about us. You know, like that's right. That was such a great moment,
and that it's good guys and bad guys,
right? And everything, and it's such a good thing because it's not black or white. It's this gray space in between, and that like
right, and it's in between everything.
Yep, exactly. And like that's such a good like. There are so many points where I'm talking to someone about this movie, and I'm like, yo, the whole thesis for this movie is X, and like the whole thesis for this movie is this gray space in between because like. Everybody's not just good and bad. They're kind of like teetering back and forth on this whole thing. Like Poe is a hero, and then he's disobeying orders and putting people's lives in jeopardy and not thinking about other people
and mansplaining.
Yeah, dude, right? And then,
yeah, and
like,
and same thing for Luke.
Guy at one point, yeah.
Yeah, and Luke is like completely qualified in calling that nuance between good and bad because he has to struggle with figuring out if he did or didn't create Kylo Ren. And where do you draw the line between sensing someone having the potential to have great evil and them actually acting upon it? Like, where in discerning fear is somebody good or bad? Like, he's the perfect person to see, to understand that, and to therefore like step away from the idea. Like, yeah, like for him to say that it's vanity, like to believe that like good starts and ends with the Jedi and that it's not just about the Force itself, which I think says a lot about, honestly says a lot about the real world. And what's really fun about that is that concept is explored both in the light with Luke and then also in the dark with DJ, where, you know, he sort of points out the fact that like, oh, like, hey, I stole this cruiser. Who does it belong to? It belongs to guys who sold weapons and ships to
the bad guys,
the bad guys, and also to the Resistance. Right. You know what I mean? And like that, you know, it's all, not that everything is relative. So for him, he takes a very harsh, cynical stance. Like the way I tweeted this out earlier, I couldn't help but think about how much DJ from The Last Jedi was an ideological embodiment of the late Newgrounds scene and everyone who owns every season of South Park on DVD. Because like there's something about like, well, you know, good people and bad people do wrong things, so anarchy, like that's the solution, you know, like this sort of like lazy response. That's kind of his situation, and he even owns up to how silly it is when Finn's like, you're wrong, and he's like, maybe, but
like, maybe I am,
but nonetheless, like this whole idea of like there are politics, and it makes things really complicated. Where whether you're the admiral or your Finn or your Poe, like people are dying, or whether, you know, you're selling weapons to, cause I remember like Rose, she was like, oh my gosh, I hate people in this casino planet because like they all just, how else do they become wealthy by selling weapons and spacecrafts and things like that? And it's like, but they're also helping the Resistance. What do we do with this? Yeah. It feels a lot like these past 2 years. It feels a lot
seriously.
like politics in America.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of that in this, and I think we're kind of reaching this point where that kind of stuff is going to be inescapable. Like, it's on everyone's minds, so it's gonna permeate for the next like decade or so into like art and into all these other things. So of course that stuff is going to come up. I mean, yeah, like DJ is like the first kind of like nihilistic character that we've seen in this, and like you were saying, like everyone is so good guy or bad guy. Like there's no great. I mean, Han Solo was like kind of like that, but he was a good guy in the end. But like DJ's character was just like, man, what are you going to do? you know, no sense in trying. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Really interesting.
It's like, it is interesting thing about Han. Where was he though? Like, it's like he was selfish / like Logan. Where like he's always reluctant to like be the hero, but he ends up being the hero.
Yeah,
but otherwise he's looking out for himself. Like
reluctantly like drug into what's happening.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Another thing that actually I'm curious to know what you thought. What did you think about the humor? Because I went back to Twitter and everybody has something to talk about the humor in this film. And I don't know. It happened and I laughed and I had no further thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's really it. Like, I talked to Paul after he saw it, and he was like, yeah, it was kind of like jarring at first. He's like, it's not in a bad way. He's like, I just wasn't expecting it. It just felt a little different, and I wasn't expecting it, and I just rolled with it. And that's exactly how I was. I saw it, and I feel like I'm like the loudest laugher in the theater, because I was just like, like when he's doing that whole thing with Hux, and I was like, this is phenomenal.
Oh,
like,
that was perfect.
It's so good. Like, you got to have these moments of levity in this crazy thing. And like I was talking to someone on Twitter about it, and they were like, oh, but it's so like out of character for Star Wars, and I was like, hold on. If we're gonna talk about out of character, and we're gonna use established things, like the first line that he says to the antagonist in Force Awakens, he cracks a joke. So why would he
oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah. You're with me. For me, when I saw that, I was like, that specific scene, I was like, this is nothing new. Because in Force Awakens, he's like, just who talks first?
Right.
You talk first? Yeah. I talk first. Like, his whole bit is trolling people in the First
authority.
Order.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was completely
totally
within character of what we knew.
Totally different. Didn't feel out of character at all. And like, there are some points where I feel like there's points where Rian Johnson is just like, nah, fuck you. Right? Like, he's just like, there are many parts about this movie that he's just like, nah, fuck you, and whatever you're thinking. It's like we'll talk more of them, but like one that like comes to mind of this like kind of thing where it's just like a fuck you to the audience is like when Kylo Ren and Rey are like telepathically like force connecting with each other, and they keep like popping into someone's mind. Like, I feel like Rian Johnson was like, yeah, we're going to do this, and I know that there's going to be like a shitty internet sketch or like an animation about us like telepathically like jumping into each other thing, and one of us is going to be in a compromising situation, like peeing or something. And Rian Johnson's
and he
like,
covered it.
Yeah, and he's just like, nah, fuck you. We're going to do that first. We're going to take the piss out of it and like do it. I mean,
dude, that's so real. I was thinking, dude, the first thing that came to mind after watching the scene was like, I'm surprised I haven't seen anyone do like one of those scenes. That would be like a lot. That would be like a really fun little sketch.
Oh yeah,
and like one
totally.
To execute well on a low budget.
Yeah, dude, that'd be great. Like I love stuff like that. Here's like my favorite Rian Johnson kind of like, nah, fuck you moment. Like, I think Rian Johnson's thesis on this film was like, fuck anything that you brought with you into this movie. Like, any preconception you had, any stupid fan theory that you had, or any like, I don't know, anything of what this movie should be, like, it's going out the window. And like, for me, the scene that encapsulates that the best is when we pick up Rey where Force Awakens left off. Rey is handing the lightsaber to Luke. He looks at it, and everyone is just like, oh my God, this is going to be a great moment because we've been waiting 2 years to see how this moment plays out. And he's just like, well,
fuck it.
Over the shoulder, fuck it. Like,
It's beautiful.
It's so perfect because it's like, as a director, it's just being like, it's almost as if he's like reaching through the screen and like shaking you on the shoulders and be like, this is a different movie.
Right.
We're doing something different. I'm not going to regurgitate what you like simply because you like it.
Right.
I just love it because it's just like a fuck you.
Yeah, I'm about that.
His shoulder.
I'm completely about that.
Yeah.
Oh man, there was a really big theme that I sort of like, and I think I remember at some point during Force Awakens, some writers kind of came forward and talked about. Well, I guess the biggest thing, I guess the biggest next thing to talk about is sort of like and it's kind of related to fans sort of bringing their baggage to the film, which I was talking with my buddy Peyton, and the way he kind of explained it was like, when you bring your baggage to the film, like, it's actually really selfish because you have the next film in your head.
Right.
And then when they didn't like invest millions of dollars to like make the film that you made in your head before you showed up, like, you get really mad, you know? And it's like, that's not what we're like. It was cool the way he kind of phrased it, because it was like, it's not what we're participating in. The one thing that I really loved that I think everybody kind of jumped to talking about right away was the premise of Rey not being a part of some royal bloodline.
Yeah.
And like not having a legacy, but rather her just kind of coming from nothing, which I feel is probably the most apropos message. That's probably the thesis that everybody thinks that this film is about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's about a spectrum of things, but like, I think one of them is like, yeah, that to be a hero, to be an asset, to be a member of the resistance, to be all of these things that Rey is known for being really well. You can come from nothing and you can be nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And that there's I don't know, there's just sort of room at the table for everybody, which has sort of been the very interesting parallel that I feel is more explicitly drawn out through this trilogy than any other, about the sort of tension between the First Order and the Rebel Alliance. Like, for the first time, we're sort of seeing like, yes, you know what I mean? Like, people who are part of the resistance are like people from marginalized contexts.
Yeah, totally.
And that's sort of what's bringing them together. And they keep tripping over themselves to get things done. And sometimes there's success and sometimes there's not, but that character remains the same. And like, that the First Order is incredibly old guard, very homogenized, very, and it's just interesting seeing between The Force Awakens, where there were like very strong, like intentional parallels between the First Order and like Nazism, you know, especially in that scene out in the front, you know, like, oh my gosh, was that not like a direct draw on character from like those old black and white tapes of like Hitler we'd see, right? And
where they're just like slaughtering people. And, you know, in the first one, we like learn that they're like kidnapping children and like, you know, Finn is basically like a boy soldier, like, you know, like from some like, you know, some war-torn country with like a dictator who's just like snatching up kids and using that to like raise an army. Like, it's literally what they're doing. And that's like, it's an interesting parallel for him to play that.
I totally agree. And then in this film, it kind of fills it out where they go to this casino planet. I didn't take down the name of what it is, but like, you guys know what I'm talking about.
It's like
something with a K.
Canto Bight or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And you have a good memory. and they kind of show the flip side, you know what I mean? And they show how these people are treated.
Yeah, they showed like these aristocrats kind of like, you know, enjoying themselves, living off, you know, being warmongers, and that there's downtrodden people all over the place. And it's a nice, I think it's a great moment. Like, and some of the criticism I saw online was like, oh, we see these slave kids, and now like, what? Who's that kid? How is he important? And I was like, I don't care if he's important.
I
like,
know. Exactly.
like, I think that scene is a twofold message. One, to show the audience that the the thesis of the movie, the thesis of the movie again, the thesis fucking number 3 at this point. Like the thesis of the movie is, and there are so many lines that people repeat over and over again that are the whole plot point of the whole thing. So like, Poe basically has to learn that we're the spark that burns down the resistance, or we're, I'm butchering the quote, but whatever it is. And that kid at the end is meant to symbolize that, like this one little like act of kindness, mercy, however that kid read it, by meeting Rose and Finn. That's the one thing. That's the spark that starts that carries this new generation forward. And it's also another message for the audience, almost to be like, yeah, that's this guy. This kid. He's the next generation. I'm ushering, Rian Johnson is ushering in the next generation of Star Wars people. And and another, thesis for the whole thing. Kylo Ren says, "Let the past die. Kill it if you have to." And
yeah,
I mean,
it's almost like he was like, he could have just looked at the camera. Hey, nerds.
Hey, talking to you guys.
Let the past die.
All that stuff is great. It's the past. We're not doing that stuff anymore. And here's, I have like a million theories about like what Rian Johnson doing. Like the Rebel fleet basically like chugging along in a straight line is this kind of like metaphor for the series. It's like, we're going to keep going with this thing. Okay. And you can either keep up and try to keep going with us and trying to figure out how we're going to keep this whole thing going, or you can get stuck on the past and get left behind and then get blown up by the First Order. Like we're moving ahead. This is the way we're going. If you're on board, great. And like Laura Dern's character is basically like this, like, hey, I'm guiding the ship forward. It's up to you if you want to play by the rules and be a part of this whole thing, because we're going this way. And I'm telling you, this is the way we're going. And Poe Dameron doesn't want to listen, so he does his own little thing, only to wind up back with the ship, who's made more progress and is actually going toward a destination to do something good.
Bravo, dude.
The people,
I am so
old school
with
Star
you.
Wars fans are playing the role of Poe Dameron. This whole thing.
Oh my God.
His lesson.
Oh my God, you're right.
His lesson should be their lesson.
No, dude, you're right. Old guard Star Wars nerds are Poe.
Yeah. Where they're like,
they're Poe sympathizers.
I don't need to listen to you. I know what this should be. I know what's best for this whole thing. It's like, no, you don't. Sit down and enjoy the ride.
Right. Like, you're adventurous, you're dangerous, and you're not what we need right now.
Dude, yo, Laura Dern
laid that shit down.
She's Kathleen Kennedy, who's just like, yo, we're making more Star Wars. Decide if you want to be on board or not.
Right.
Damn, that's interesting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. we need Leia to come in and just sort of like ray gun some ray gun some nerds.
Yeah. Shut up. Yeah. We're already
toss them on the pod. Yeah. We're going there. If you're gonna stick with Star Wars, you're on the pod with us.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you're conscious or not.
Yeah.
One thing I'm stealing this from my buddy Ben. He said Finn's arc from coward to self-interested to protector of friends to actual hero is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's so true. Like Finn did so much. You know what I mean? And he's grown so much.
Yeah, that was one of the criticisms I kept reading, that like Finn and Rose's story was like a detraction from the main thing. It wasn't interesting and it was long. And like I felt the complete opposite.
Like, it was part of it. It was completely part of it.
I felt like so good, especially like Rose's arc. She was like my favorite character. Like right out of the gate, I was like,
and when people kept saying like, "Who is she? Where is she from?" I was like,
"It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's the point. It doesn't matter."
The thing is exactly what it is. It's like doesn't matter.
Right.
You don't need to be. You don't need to be super important to be a part of this story. You know, and everyone has these like
Rey is just as important.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Rose.
And everyone has these like made up rules about like what Star Wars can and can't do. Where like. Who is Snoke? Oh my, where did he come from? What's his real identity? And like, this is a prime example. It's like, it doesn't matter. We're telling a story.
It doesn't matter.
This is the story. You want to fill the world out behind the scenes? You can do that. I'm telling this story. This is what it is. And like,
What's important is that for whatever mysterious reason that I think every human, like, who's ever struggled with insecurity can understand, is that Kylo Ren romanticizes this being.
Yes.
And like feels like he is like the gatekeeper of whether he will ever live up to being like Darth Vader or not. That's what's important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the fact that everybody agrees with that, we're good then. Right.
And not everything, like, it doesn't need to like feed back into anything. Like, it doesn't matter who Snoke is. Like, it's not a crucial thing. The reason it became crucial is because you being the generalized like fans after seeing The Force Awakens were like, that guy, who is he? He's so important. I need to know more about him. They better give me some answers on the next movie. And if they don't, I'm going to be real mad. Well, you're going to be real mad because you're not going to find out anything about it. And it's just like in Empire, like in Empire Strikes Back, the Emperor just like pops up, right? And you're like, who is this guy? Okay, I guess he's Vader's boss. Okay, cool. And it wasn't until we had like years later that we were like, oh, now I know all these things about who he is and where he came from. And it's like, that's much more lamer. Like, Palpatine is just a senator. He's just a guy who just like talked his way and conned people. That's not interesting. I liked the mysticism of this just being who was there and who was all powerful, and then he's dead. Like, that's fine for me. I don't think I need the super extended history of these people, you know?
Right. You don't need that like J.R. Tolkien appendix that tells you like how to speak Elvish and shit. Like,
yeah, and it would feel so out of place in this movie for Snoke to just like slip into conversation. When I was a boy, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Here's my backstory, which has like nothing to do with Kylo Ren and Rey, who are there, who are the main characters, who are the people we're supposed to like latch onto. His history has no bearing on any of that. If he were to like sit there and explain like, well, I was blah blah blah, Rey would be like, I don't know who any of that is. How does that connect to me? It doesn't even matter.
Do you know what's more important? The monumental scene it led up to, where for like, and I'm glad that they appreciated the currency. Like, sometimes you can only have certain scenes if there's currency for it to really be a point of contention.
Right.
And like, we see many heroes offered the opportunity to have ultimate power. And oftentimes the reason they turn it down is because in their heart of hearts, they're just really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just pick the right thing because they're supposed to. And it doesn't really feel like there are stakes on the line. It almost feels like the offer for power is like a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
But after this sort of like build up, like Snoke is out of the picture. Soba's out of the picture. And Kylo is sitting there with Rey. And Rey has just found out. The only reason she's on the Millennium Falcon, the only reason she's admiring Han Solo, the only reason she's admiring Luke Skywalker, the only reason she's going everywhere she's going is to find out where she comes from. It is to find out like what her story is going to be. And a big part of that is who her parents are.
Right.
And in the moment where she realizes, and they make it clear she's legitimately feared in her mind the whole time, it's revealed to her that she doesn't matter and she's not a part of anyone's story, and she's hanging around all these amazing people that are doing amazing things, and she doesn't have a piece in any of it. Mm-hmm. And it's the most tempting point in her life to just join up with Kylo Ren and to actually matter, because he professes to believe in her and everything that she's doing.
Right.
And her hanging out with Luke Skywalker doesn't look at her that way. Mm-hmm. Luke doesn't treat her with that kind of respect. Luke doesn't treat her with that sort of like, Luke doesn't effectively, through actions alone, Luke doesn't particularly give a shit about her.
Right.
And she has every reason to say yes, and she says no. And the cash in on the currency building up to that for effectively 2 films was pretty monumental. And I think people should probably be talking about that just a little bit more.
Yeah. And the fact that her reveal is just like an undercut and just it's just defeat, you know, like it's defeat, it's hopelessness, you know, like, you know, she's banking to like learn about this just the same way the audience is. They're like, oh man, it's going to be such a big payoff. And then when he's just like, they were nobodies. They sold you for no reason. It's like,
Right. Again, I repeat, Rey is as important to the story as Rose is.
Right.
Like, not being a Rose advocate, but and it's almost like, to drive it home, when Poe says, hey, let's go check out where these crystal creatures are, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It was a shitty name. That was I will complain about that. That was like a shitty name. The crystal critters, or maybe they just made it up because they didn't know what they were called.
Meant to be like a joke. I don't know if that's like the real name.
Okay.
I thought that, the way like he calls Phasma Chrome Dome kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Yeah.
Like, everybody looks to Leia, and she's like, why are you guys looking at me?
Yeah.
Follow him. Like,
follow him. Yeah. Exactly.
He is important. He's the most important thing right now because he has an idea, Like,
yeah.
It is not about, like, everybody is like, let go. Like, Luke's like, let go of me. Leia's like, let go of me.
Right. Yeah, man.
It is like they're talking to fans.
Yeah. There are so many points where I was just like, God, this is such a, like, hey, guys, pay attention. Here's what we're doing. We're doing this now. We're not doing those other things anymore. Are you okay with that? And if you're not, that's fine. But we're gonna keep going ahead. We're gonna keep moving forward, and you can hang here if you want. Even like Luke says, he says like, this is not going to go the way you think. Like, that should have been clue number one, that like, this was going to be different than any other Star Wars movie ever made, and that's probably the way it's going to be from here on out.
Yeah.
I know. It was so good.
Yeah. And the sacrifices were heavy. They were expensive.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, you see right off the bat that like a bunch of people died, and Leia wants Poe to feel like that. Like, he's the audience where he's like, I just want to see shit blow up. It's going to be great. And we're going to do it, and we're going to win. And like, her whole point is that like, yeah, but like, there's real stakes here. Like, all of those things have a cost. Like, there's a shot of like that console where it's like X-wings and A-wings, and it's like burm, 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 like all dead, and there's like 4 left. Like, this was the first movie that felt like they were just like a ragtag group of people trying to survive. It wasn't like, oh, well, their empire's fighting our people, and we have a base and all these ships and stuff like that. This was like, this is it. This is all of us versus all of these other people, and we need to band together. We need to work together to survive. It's really interesting. It reminded me of this Battlestar Galactica episode. Did you ever watch that show?
I watched the original one where they were like filming like little toy figures, but you're referring to what, the 90s one, right?
Yeah, or the
early 2000s.
Yeah, the early 2000s one. I think it's like the second or third episode is like one of my favorite episodes. So the premise is the Galactica has to like jump in hyperspace, or like in faster than light travel. They have to jump to a new point because the Cylons keep finding where they're at. So every time they jump, 33 minutes later, the Cylons show up, and that's just enough time for them to boot up their FTL drive and jump to the next thing. Where 33 minutes later, more Cylons show up. Like, watching that movie or watching that episode of the show and then this movie felt the same way, where it's just like, oh my God, there's just this relentless, unstoppable force like chugging along and coming to get us. It felt like a fever dream where it's just like something is coming to get us all the time. Like, that tense, panicky kind of feel like had me going throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. There was like a huge sort of there was this tension through it. Like, from the beginning, they lost so many people, and I was like, "What is there? This is all the resistance? Like, this is
this is it." And what a great moment when Leia makes that call and nobody shows up. Like, Leia makes that call, and I like the film nerd in me was just like, okay, well, here's the kit where the cavalry shows up. This is the Deus Ex Machina coming in, and it's all the rebel fleets from all over the place coming. And I'm so glad that didn't happen. Because like, I love being like, I know where this is going. And then the film being like, nah, we're doing this. You think but you have no idea.
Yeah. You know what super weirded me out?
What's that?
If there were any question I would have for Ryan, it would be, about the mirror scene, and I don't really
I don't need it laid out to me. I don't
totally, either. I'm glad that it existed.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so glad that it was just it's kind of like a pause in the movie where it's like, oh, cool. All of the secrets are going to be revealed to me. As an audience member, and Ray too is feeling that same way.
Right.
And then it's just nothing. It's just
you. Honestly, it felt a lot like the Harry Potter.
Yeah, dude, very similar scene. Exactly.
Very similar scene. And I don't know, just the presence of that hallucination, like getting to have a personal moment with Rey in a way that I don't think the Star Wars franchise has ever addressed with any particular character. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was a thing where it's don't explain it. You don't need to explain the suitcase.
Right.
I wanted to know why that space was, why is it affiliated with darkness? Why did it call her? What was she supposed to see? But there was something really mysterious about it.
I wonder.
That was enjoyable.
I mean, it definitely has echoes of Empire Strikes Back, where Luke goes into the cave and Yoda's Luke's like, what's in there? And Yoda says, only what you take with you. So, Luke goes in there and sees Vader, his worst enemy is the parallel that Rey goes in there and she sees her worst enemy, I wonder if that's if that's what it's supposed to be, an echo of that, or if it's, some kind of deeper thing where it's showing maybe, okay, here's a theory, right? So maybe going into these dark places and having these visions is showing you kind of what you fear most, right? And Rey goes into this thing. It's going to show her what she kind of fears most. And she wants information about her parents. And really it's just her on the other side. And maybe this echoes what you were talking about, that it's just it doesn't matter. You don't need some crazy lineage. It doesn't need to be important. It can just be you. It's really just about you,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. She doesn't need to find her identity or her value in where she came from.
Right.
She can write her story on her own right now.
Oh man, that's great.
That's such a cool, powerful message.
Yeah, that was good. I'm trying to think. I wrote down maybe that you and I could discuss some of the backlash. And I think we've done a good job of discussing what people found wrong with it and why that's incorrect.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to. I almost didn't want to lend credence to just being negative about it. But it actually did turn out to be a pretty good jumping off point for a lot of. Well, I think what it is just a lot of the things, literally all the things I enjoyed were the things that I kept finding most often people didn't enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess just being able to,
I feel recently that I don't need to defend the movie.
No way. I'm not explaining that stuff. Myself.
You know what I mean? For someone to be oh, well, when Leia flies, that was kind of weird. I'm all right, well, yeah, maybe you found it that way. I mean, I didn't. Right. I thought it was kind of interesting and obviously strange at first, but then I was oh man, this is really, really interesting that she's using a force power and that they gave her something like that to do. It wasn't and they were oh, but she never used the force before. And I was okay, you can think that, but there are plenty of times where Leia is having force interaction throughout the thing. And that's totally fine within canon, quote unquote canon for me. So
yeah.
That's on you. My onus isn't to prove to you that it's a good scene. Your onus is to try to figure out why a talented filmmaker would include that scene in there. So that's on you.
Oh, good way to put it. That is a good way to put it. That is, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love you, actually.
I love you. Well, and here's another thing that kind of people were just that I found frustrating. I liked Force Awakens. I thought Force Awakens was a lot of fun. It's a great movie. I thought it was a great next chapter in Star Wars. It's definitely up there for me and one of my favorites. But a lot of the criticism with that movie was well, they just recycled everything from the old movies and put it in this new movie. And then Last Jedi comes out and people are well, it wasn't Force Awakens. And it's like,
which really means it wasn't like
which
the
means
old
it wasn't
Kanye.
like the old one. Yeah.
They want the new Kanye.
Look, man, graduation's the best.
I miss the old
Why
Kanye.
can't you just do graduation every album? Or was it late registration?
They're both old. They're both great. Yeah.
I get my Kanye chronology messed up. Kanyeology.
Oh
yeah,
gosh,
for me, that's not like, it's like, I know for a fact you didn't like Force Awakens, random internet people. Like, we know you didn't like it because it was too similar, and now they gave you something totally different, and
you're like, what gives? Wait, what?
I wanted it to be like that other thing now. I don't get it. I don't
either.
I mean, I thought it was like really interesting. Like, this movie gave us like flashbacks. We've never really had that in a Star Wars movie before.
Wait, refreshing my memory.
Well, we kind of had this like crazy like Rashomon situation where like Luke tells the story. And
oh my gosh! Yes, it was Rashomon.
Yeah, like we had like
that
a
was
flashback
so good.
to that, and like upon like a second viewing, it's like no, the whole scene, like filming of the whole scene changes depending on whose perspective. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, so like that was like an interesting way to do this, and it was cool to see. Like, by the end of like Return of the Jedi, we just assume that Luke Skywalker is like gonna be a Jedi Master, and he's gonna pass on what he's learned and stuff, like Yoda said. And then in Force Awakens, you're like, oh man, he's like this like mythical creature, or this mythical guy. It's gonna be so great. And like we get there, and he's just depressed. He's just a failed old man who felt that he needed to like exile himself because he like made a mistake,
Yeah. You know what I want? I want to know. I want the story. I want the lore. This is the lore that I want.
Yeah.
The one that I want. I want the lore behind the green milk because I'm used to blue milk.
Yeah.
And now we have all new green. And this third time I looked, I was like, oh, I think the bottle's just tinted green. But then they make sure to put the milk in his beard, and it's like green milk. And I'm like, okay.
Maybe it's just like,
I guess they're doing that. Maybe it's different kind of milk.
Different animals have different kinds of milk, Like,
yeah, it could be. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You're right.
And I think that scene was like another like, fuck you, fans. Fuck you. For people to be like, well, like, how does he like live on that island? Like, what does he eat? And like Rian Johnson's
and then they showed it. Yeah,
I'll fucking show you. He fucking
milks he fucking
milks
spears
this walrus
fish.
teat. That's how your hero feeds himself, because you want to see that apparently.
Oh god.
Yeah. And I feel like it's very like he's this like malicious creator, be like, I'll show you your hero at his lowest.
I'm gonna take it all away. I'm taking it all away from you.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
Okay, willing to make do with the different kinds of milk explanation.
And I don't know.
No. I'm good. I'm being ridiculous. I did do for Christmas. I did do little like stormtrooper cookies and
oh, nice.
Got some nutmeg and some blue food coloring. You know what that reminds me of? Literally, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain what I'm gonna explain later. But
okay.
I don't know who directed Rogue One. I don't know if you know who that is.
Gareth Edwards is his name.
There we go. I don't know who's doing. There's going to be another interstitial film, right?
Yeah, there's a Han Solo movie is what they're going to do, like a young Han Solo.
Okay. I don't know who's directing that, but I guess I did after having Rogue One fresh in my memory, because I enjoyed Rogue One a lot.
Yeah, me too. Like
as much as the mainline films, honestly.
Oh yeah, totally.
And
it was an appropriate movie to come out at the end of last year.
Yeah. Yes.
Very much we are going to fight, and this is the resistance.
Yes. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I missed that photography because I think that harkens back to what you were saying earlier, where like how like Logan felt like, oh, this is like an IP we all know, but it's like an indie film version.
Right,
and like
right.
Rogue One felt that same way, where like the photography in episode 8 was very, it's great, obviously, but like it's very polished in a sense that the most important thing is in the center of the frame.
Right.
Like almost all the time. You know what I mean? And you know exactly where to look all the time. Meanwhile, the way Rogue One did photography was the most important thing is it's in the center, but on a Z axis. So like things will be off to the side. There's a lot of like thirds and like scenes with a lot of space. Yeah. And there was something really personal about it that I almost wish made its way into. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No. Yeah, I agree. They were definitely very different. Rogue One always felt like a war movie, a Star War movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's in that universe and like all that stuff. You know, it's there, but it's in the background. But this is about like, this is like on the street. Like this is handheld war footage,
like guerrilla. Yeah,
exactly. And I feel like like you're right. It's very, very polished and very like stylized at a lot of points too, especially like that hyperspace jump.
Oh yes,
that's like my favorite thing. Ugh, I love it so much.
Yeah, that was really cool. Snoke's lair, was amazing. And there's this one part where like Rey like beheads this dude or something, and something sets on fire, and it hits the wall, and like the wall is on fire in the center, and then there's just one of those warriors standing underneath it, and he's red, and the wall is red, and I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah,
like,
it's so good.
Somebody needs to make some art of that. Maybe I will. I don't know. Like it was, it was cool.
Like it was very. It reminded me like a like Rome is burning kind of thing. It's like it's Kylo Ren murder Snoke, something that's unexpected. He killed like he killed. I keep saying the Emperor now, like like Roman Emperor, or he killed Caesar, like, and I was like, yeah, but they already have like an emperor, so he's just comparing it to that. But yeah, so he killed Caesar, and the entire place is just chaos at that point. Like it's like, okay, there's all these guys, and then there's all this fire, and the whole thing is like burning, and then it literally breaks in half, and it's just more chaos, crazy. And like. So here's coming back to like where Snoke came from kind of thing. Like when Kylo Ren kills Snoke, it obviously makes like a power vacuum, right? But then it also makes like a I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to get at. Like it makes this power vacuum of like now he's going to assume command of this whole thing. And I feel like that right there should be enough explanation for who Snoke is and where he came from. Like, obviously the Emperor died, right? The whole thing comes crashing down. So there's obviously going to be a power vacuum, and someone is just going to step up and assume that role,
Right.
And for me, like, if we never get another word on it, that is totally fine with me, because I think that's a better explanation that, I came up with in my head that could ever be like on screen. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the mystery box. It's so like what it could be is so much better than what it actually is, And like, that's like the mystery box is like a J.J. Abrams like special. Like he talks about it all the time, and he uses it and does it all the time. And Force Awakens is very much like that. It's like, oh, well, it could, it could be anything. Who could her parents be? Could be anything. What does it mean when Luke's going to get the lightsaber? I don't know. It could be anything. Could be whatever you're thinking in your brain right now. It's probably that, but it might not be. And Rian Johnson's like, no, this is what it is. This is what it is. You're not getting any more information other than what I give you, and that's it. Dude, I just ranted about that.
What I'm curious, the thing I want to be on the fly on the wall for is when JJ and Rian like talked about the passing of the baton.
Yeah, and like what's next? Like it's got to be weird.
Yeah, because he's passing it back, so it's like
I don't think it was there was another director, I think.
Yeah, there were originally supposed to be a different dude.
Yeah, it was the guy who did Jurassic World, Colin Trevorrow. Yeah, he did that and Safety Not Guaranteed. So that was like an interesting. Yeah, man. Like that would have been interesting, but it just didn't work out. Now, JJ's taking that back. Oh, and the Han Solo movie was supposed to be this directing pair, Chris Miller and I can't remember the other guy's name. They did 21 Jump Street and like they showrun Last Man on Earth. They directed the Lego movie. They wrote it too. They had like a great sense of humor. It would have been really cool. But I think it's kind of one of those situations where I think Kathleen Kennedy and the people at Lucasfilm and Disney have like they want it to be a certain way, and I'm sure like there's room for you to kind of like flex your artistic and creative muscles if they hire you. But I'm sure at some point it's just like, no, it's got to be this because of X, Y, and Z. And I feel like when people like exit like high profile projects like that, I think that's kind of the basis of it. It's usually just like, no, you can't, you can deviate a little bit, but this is too far. And if you don't want to budge, then this is like our final say on this whole thing. Cause I think it happened with Edgar Wright too. Like he was going to direct Ant-Man. And I think I remember that. He ultimately wound up saying, when people like ask him about it, he says, I was interested in making a Marvel movie. I don't think that Marvel was interested in making an Edgar Wright movie. So I think like when you have like a giant franchise like this, like I think they want you to like, they're going to bring you in because of your talent and what you're bringing to the table. But at some point, like you can't be an auteur in these movies, you know, like they have to be like kind of like a certain way. And I think you can work within those bounds. And I think like this movie especially is I think the one to kind of like flex out of the mold more than the others.
For sure. Yeah. Did, like, because I got a sense of the director's hand on what was being made.
Yeah, totally.
So I figure they're like, I want to know what their schedules are.
Well, dude, it's got to be crazy.
Like, is JJ just not sleeping? Like, that's what I want to know.
Guess,
I mean, I assume the worst.
Like, well, I mean, here's how I knew. Like, I knew Last Jedi was going to be a movie that I really enjoyed, and then I think that I was excited about and would be a good movie is because they hired Rian Johnson to make a whole nother set of Star Wars movies. So, like, if this is what he makes, right, and Disney and like Lucasfilm are like, we like this style and these ideas so much, we're going to give you carte blanche to do your own, whatever you want in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like, that's super exciting. I remember like I had a conversation with Paul, like years and years ago when they first kind of announced that what like the lineup for the new trilogy was going to be. And they had announced, Rian Johnson. And I was like, he's like, it just sucks because like that guy is known for making these awesome original movies. And he's like not going to do that for like 5-6 years, you know? And I was like, yeah, that does kind of suck. But you do get to hear like what another artist's version of All Along the Watchtower is going to be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it'd be cool to have, you know, it'd be cool to hear like the Weeknd version of like the Weezer Blue album. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like
I love the idea for everything. I love the idea of people outside of the scene, outside of the fandom, giving their take on what everybody enjoys.
Right.
And like there are some people who are going to be like, you're ruining it.
Right.
But then like there's going to be other people who see that like Star Wars is still just a film. It's a film and it's up for criticism.
Right.
Right. Or it's a sci-fi and it's up for criticism.
Yeah.
Like
it's a genre unto itself. And here's what people are making inside the genre, you know?
Right. Right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Dude.
Good times.
Good movie. I loved it. I loved it so much.
Me too. I can't wait for it to. At this point, I've seen it too many times in theaters. I can't wait until it's on iTunes.
Yeah, I really want to like dissect it a lot.
Also, there's so many gifts I want to make. Like, when Leia is they're on that final planet, and they set up base. And the first scene from on that planet, she's just like looking out into the distance from like her coat collar.
And it's all, dude, there's
I want to take that. I want to be like me looking into 2018.
Dude.
Like,
oh my God.
And she like turns and walks away and she's like, they're coming. Like, the moment I saw it, I was just like, I need that GIF. Like, am I going to go to the theater with my phone and record that real quick? Or
nope, you're going to have to download the trailer and take it into Premiere and cut it up and make it official. Put like good text on top of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, there are so many good, really awesome close-up shots in this movie. There's a shot of Poe early on when he's flying in. It's just like his eyes, like it's so stylized. I love it. I love it so much.
It's cool.
Well, dude, this has been a good talk.
Yeah.
Good pickup.
It's been good. I hope people in podcast land have enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah. And I think any other movies that we kind of sync up on checking out, I think maybe we could pop on again, share some thoughts.
Yeah.
You should go see the Disaster Artist, man.
Ooh, yes. Have you seen that yet?
I did. It's great.
Okay. I mean, since we did The Room, I should probably watch it, and that should be the next one.
I feel like I'm going to rewatch The Room and then maybe watch Disaster Artist one more time. I feel like we owe it to people.
Yeah, we owe it. Yeah, we owe it justice. Yeah.
to complete the saga.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Sweet.
Thank you guys for coming by.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
The Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast is produced by Satchell Drakes and Nick Murphy. Music by Mark Junker. You can hear more of his music at junker.ca. That's junker.ca. You can follow the Telecast on Twitter at CA Telecast. Subscribe on YouTube at CA Telecast. Subscribe on iTunes. And check out our website, catelecast.com.